So again, now we also have to define, because now I've told you what the moon is, that's the mind. I've told you what the sun is, that's the soul, everything together. So what are spirits? Because I didn't talk about spirits, and this was about spirituality today. I talked about the soul, which is not a spirit, and that's what I was trying to explain in the beginning. It even started getting me confused after a while. I was like, okay, you know what? If I'm getting a little confused, I'm definitely confusing everybody else. Let me leave it for a while, come back to it. What is the difference between a soul and a spirit? A spirit is also, a spirit is the creation from the life of the soul being with the flesh. So you could say that the spirit is the child of the soul and the flesh, or of the sun and the moon. The spirit is the child of the sun and the moon. And you're going to see this so clearly here in a moment. But just imagine that what the spirit is that when I leave, most certainly I will go, and I will be everywhere as I am now. But when I dip, I'm going to go into something. Like I'm going to use another vehicle. We call that vehicle the spirit. Okay? And to really understand it, man, there's complexities to the spirit, because now I just at minimum came from the sun and the moon, which have their own story. Like the sun already has everybody's story within it contained, and the new idea. The sun is solved like a calculator, everybody's problems already. So I'm mixed with that. And I got all my history, all my past. And this is interesting because we're only talking about 2 celestial bodies here. We even brought Venus into play. But I got my history, I got my past, and I got my future. All one glove. Right now, we have to start realizing that, first of all, we've been dumbed down because we have a opposable thumb manifesting on this dimension. The issue with Ifrit, Jinn, and many of the other entities that boast that they have so much power is some of them metaphysically, spiritually, and physically still have a hoof. And if you ever try to grab something with a hoof and do electrical calculations and all sorts of stuff and calibrate tools, it is very difficult. This is a builder. Every single star you see on the United States flag is mimicry of the ancient knowledge of the Moorish nations that every star is a being, meaning that every star on the pentagram means a being that is being worked with. I don't want to say the word demon. A being is being worked with. So they're saying we have 50 stars on it. We have 50 different entities that we're working with that are all chiefs and all kings. Anybody who sees a pentagram as an occultist knows what that means. So China is saying we have one great red dragon that is probably the equivalent of at least 50 of your or 49 of your other type of jinn and beings. Okay. Now, the reason why this has to come into context is because you got to remember that even things like math, when we say algebra is a being. That is a term of al-Jabbar, meaning the great, right? The mighty one. Okay. So right away, we see that there's a lot of words that we're using every single day that tell you where all the knowledge was coming from. So when they prance around with these big scimitar swords and they play around in their lepo lodges, like I said, in their masonry, and they put all this ancient Oriental regalia there from the same country that they're bombing, you can tell that they don't have any respect for what that is. And that's why anybody that's occultist knows when you see the symbol they use shows the big scimitar over the head of who is Ma'at. That is that symbol. This is called the jewel. The jewel shows a sword, and it shows it over the head of what looks like a pharaoh, which is a female pharaoh. Versus the ancient one, the sword is below her. That's all it takes to change something.